Hello and welcome to Families Made Differently. I am Bex Baker, your host. Myself and Jack are in our final stages of our third adoption. It has been such a privilege hearing from other foster carers, adopters, kinship carers, and others involved in the lives of vulnerable children. They come on every month and share their stories about how they are loving and caring for care experienced children. Please get in touch via email or DM us on Instagram if you would like to share how God has been working through you in the lives of vulnerable children. Hello and welcome to Families Made Differently. I am joined with Louise today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, yes, I'm Louise. I am a mum. I have 2 children. I help lead a church in Leicester, and I work for Safe Families and Home for Good as a therapeutic parenting coach.
Amazing. Can you explain to us what therapeutic parenting is?
Yes, so therapeutic parenting is an approach to parenting that is trying to really look underneath the behaviour, and it's come from a fostering and adoption world. But at Safe Families and Home for Good, we just believe it's an incredible approach for all children. It's particularly useful for children who have experienced difficult situations or have neurodivergence or are highly anxious for any reason whatsoever. And because we're looking at what's going on underneath and trying to support them through specific approaches and strategies, it's useful for any child.
Great. And why did you start using it personally?
So I accidentally started using it before I realised it was a whole approach. Turns out it's a real thing and it's based on research, and there's so much you can read and find out about therapeutic parenting. But I kind of fell into the world of using some of these approaches and strategies by accident when my son, who is a birth child, had a diagnosis of a rare kidney disease. And just overnight, the stress and the change in his behaviour due to, one, the medication he was on, but also the experience he'd had in hospitals had really caused him to literally overnight almost operate as a completely different child. And he was highly anxious, very, very stressed, and physically extraordinarily demanding. And the kind of traditional parenting models that I'd been watching other people use just weren't doing anything. I felt completely hopeless. Most of the more traditional or standard kind of strategies like time out or threats or punishments that I'd seen used before weren't doing anything. They were just escalating a situation where he was getting more distressed, I was getting more overwhelmed and feeling more hopeless. And you're kind of, by the end of the day, just both absolutely exhausted from one another. Because of his experience, it really forced me to look at a different approach. Like, this is not working. And I remember speaking to a very close family friend at the time and just saying, I've run out of ideas. I've kind of come to the end of what I knew about parenting, what I'd seen about caring for children. This isn't working. I need something new. And we just spent ages kind of reflecting on what he had been through during his time in hospital, and the loss of control and the anxiety of having lots of different medics coming in and out, and just the stress of the medication he was on as well, really impacting his actual chemistry of his brain. And I just suddenly really felt a huge sense of empathy for him in a way that I hadn't yet been able to feel. And suddenly I was able to shift ever so slightly from the behaviour needs to stop and he needs to be compliant to how do I support him through this? Because what he's been through is really difficult. His behaviour's not acceptable. Like, it was quite aggressive and it wasn't healthy for us as a family. But I was able to slightly shift my perspective and think, how do I support what's going on underneath the behaviour? Like, the behaviour started to be clues to me as to what's going on. And that's what therapeutic parenting's about. And once I understood why he was behaving that way, I couldn't parent the same way again. I had to kind of come up with something new. And then my second child is adopted, and so in that time of going through the process, therapeutic parenting as a actual kind of concept and approach is really spoken about quite a lot, or it was for us. And I suddenly realised, and also through working for Safe Families and Home for Good at the time, that, the things I'd kind of put into place because I had to was actually a genuine thing that had a name, and gave it a much more kind of I was much more confident in delivering my parenting and talking to other people about it, because I could see it was rooted in science. There was a whole world of parents and carers using these strategies, and I felt less alone and more confident to do them.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like it was really hard on your family though as a whole. The trauma
absolutely.
of his illness and stuff. It's not just trauma for him, which it obviously is, but for you as a family. So well done navigating that. That seems really challenging. Okay, so now you are a therapeutic parenting coach at Safe Families. How are you seeing therapeutic parenting affecting families that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, I do this job and it's an absolute privilege. So I get to spend my time speaking to huge variety of makeups of families and hearing more about their stories. And what I see is that therapeutic parenting brings hope. I'm often very privileged to speak to families right on the edge of what they feel they can cope with. Life has thrown them significant curveballs. Often traumatic experiences are not of our choosing and not something that we would have asked for, and often out of our control. And I have the immense privilege to speak to parents and carers who feel that nothing they're doing is working and they feel at a loss. And actually, one of the most beautiful aspects of my job is to go, there's something here that I think can bring a bit of hope and shift the dynamics ever so slightly. And what I think has been the most wonderful times of speaking to family and carers is when there's like a slight shift, just 1% in a different direction, but it can bring such freedom and give confidence to parents and carers in a way that they've just felt that everything's kind of spiraling out of their control. And I think for me, therapeutic parenting can help us be less reactive, and I just felt that I was often firefighting problems that came at me left, right and centre. And that is true for a lot of families, particularly if our children are care experienced or have experienced any sort of trauma. You can be as well prepared as you want, but life throws us curveballs. But what can happen is therapeutic parenting gives us kind of a scaffolding around our family life that we can kind of lean on, and brings that stability and hope. And for me, I really see a sense of deeper strengthening in relationships, particularly when families just feel like they don't have anything left to give to their children. Often in our world, our parents are giving 100% to the needs of their children, whether that's advocating in school or kind of staying up till ridiculous o'clock in the morning looking at the education system and what therapies they can apply for, or writing emails to MPs. We are absolutely drained and on the edge of kind of what we're able to cope with. And therapeutic parenting really helps us to walk towards our children and emotionally connect with them, and also supports parents and carers connect and care for their own nervous system. Because what I've noticed is parenting and caring for children when it's, this tricky is so impactful on the adult and the people in their life as well. And so therapeutic parenting brings hope for everybody, and that's been really wonderful to see. And it's not a quick fix. My phone calls doesn't mean that I come in with a magic wand and suddenly all issues are fixed and gone. But it's about offering that hope, and for someone to say, I hear you and I see what's happening, and that is really hard, and what you're handling is really difficult. Here are some thoughts about that, and therapeutic parenting kind of offers that.
Very good. If any of our listeners are looking to start using therapeutic parenting, where should they start?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about looking at my child I had in front of me, because there's loads of stuff and I will signpost you to things that you look at externally to get information. But I think the best thing you can do is to go, who is the child in front of me right now? And what do they need? Because often I think we have to go through a little bit of an acceptance or a grief phase of this isn't what we dreamt parenting would be, or this isn't what we thought we would be doing at this stage of our life. And actually that can almost deter us from parenting them in the way they need, because we're struggling to accept the child we have. If you're interested in therapeutic parenting, I would take a step back and go, right, who is this child in front of me? What do they need? And then I would keep it really simple. You don't need to do everything all at once. And I think you can get overwhelmed. We can all get overwhelmed by parenting advice on TikTok or social media and kind of feel like even just asking the questions feels overwhelming sometimes. And I would say keep it simple. Look at the child you have in front of you and think, what is the best thing that they need, and look underneath their behaviour. That's where I would start. The behaviours are all signs and symptoms of something that might be going on underneath. So for example, the thing that got me to shift the dynamics in our home was to not just see the behaviour as behaviour, but to go, I'm pretty sure something else is going on under here. What might be? Get curious. I think curiosity is one of the biggest parts of therapeutic parenting that is most easy to start drip feeding into how we work. And I think it's about regulating ourselves first, and it sounds so simple and it's really difficult,
hard.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
The reality of parenting and caring for a child who is easily overwhelmed for any reason means that we're just constantly on edge, and actually we are going to be better equipped to support our children in their needs if we can first support ours. And so I would focus on those things. Keep it simple. Parent the child you have in front of you. Be curious as to what's going on underneath the behaviour and support yourself first. For me, it's about finding your tribe and finding the people who get it and who get your children and who understand what approaches you're trying to put in place. And that was absolutely phenomenal for me, just finding one or two people who get it, who really love my children and want to understand them and are massive cheerleaders for the way that we do things, because we do things differently to other people. We approach school differently, we approach holidays differently, because we have to do the thing that supports our children in the moment rather than go with what everyone else is kind of doing. There's loads of support out there. There's loads of books, there's loads of things you can read. My absolute kind of non-negotiable is to get your hands on The A to Z of Therapeutic Parenting by Sarah Ney. She's an amazing voice in the UK for therapeutic parenting. It's a tricky read for some of it. What I love about it is it's a little bit like a dictionary in the sense that you can drop in and out and flick through and find the bits that will be most helpful for you. And then at Safe Families and Home for Good, we offer free online training for therapeutic parenting. So it's just a basic introduction, and we would cover way more than we've had time for in this little podcast. But we also look at the impact of secondary trauma, which often parenting and caring for children with kind of who are highly sensitive or easily overwhelmed, we can actually have that impact on us. And we do some training on that. And we also look at trauma-informed support. So have a look at our website and book on to our free training.
Great. Amazing. Apart from, I guess, your website and your training, which is great, where can people find support and go to learn more about therapeutic parenting?
I think one of the best places is online sometimes, and I think that you've just got to be careful, you've got to be quite aware and wise of what you're looking at. But the National Association of Therapeutic Parenting has a great Facebook page that you can kind of join and just observe. You don't have to participate, but the things on there are fabulous in terms of signposting for training, signposting for resources, podcasts, books. So that's probably where I would start, and I would probably start with that and go slowly, because I think often we can become quite overwhelmed with the information that might be out there.
Facebook groups actually are surprisingly helpful. I'm in a few adoption ones. Have you heard of Job 29?
Yeah, so some of our colleagues at Home for Good support that and run help facilitate.
Yeah, I don't even know why it started or where it started, but it's specifically adoption and fostering across the UK, who just kind of gather together and share advice, and it's really helpful to just have that when you need it, because you don't always need it. You don't always need advice. So, but yeah, that's good to have a therapeutic parenting. I might go look at that.
And I think from us, because we obviously have been in the world of fostering and adoption personally, we really lean and use the post-adoption support that is available, and have I think my social worker recognises my voice before she knows who I am. Actually, there are things going on. We have a local post-adoption support group and they put on some therapeutic parenting stuff. Sometimes it's a bit of a postcode lottery, but actually just messaging even schools or messaging any professionals in your life and gone, does our local authority do any therapeutic parenting stuff? Asking the question could be really, really helpful.
Because often if they don't, they can look to provide it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because sometimes they have the funding, but they're like, I don't know, we don't know what to do. We don't know what people want because no one's engaging. None of our adopters are engaging in anything. Or none of our foster carers are saying, this is what I need.
Yeah.
But if you request it or look for it or show interest in it, they could potentially find funding and
you could
do that. So
you could, and it's not to say that that's all on us, because again, I just don't want to give another thing that the parents and carers have to do, but
that's true.
But it's about going, right, what have I got any kind of networks around me that might have some advice? But I would start absolutely with Sarah Naish and the National Association for Therapeutic Parents. Absolutely. She's it's like I have my Bible and I have Sarah Naish on my side, and that's two of the books that I dip into most. And I think what's really important to say is we genuinely believe that therapeutic parenting is a biblical principle and actually is modelled on how God treats us and parents us. And what's really interesting is actually throughout the Bible you see a God who doesn't see us just for what we do and our behaviour, but he really looks underneath and he treats us with such grace. And I think what's been really helpful for me is to shift from this view of my children must behave, because that is what I think is a successful parent, to going, actually, I need to really understand my children and connect to support them to be able to manage life as they go through. And so, I would say that the Bible actually offers us some of our best blueprints for therapeutic parenting in terms of how we use empathy, how we love deeply, how we show compassion and care, as well as holding boundaries. And so, I would say...
Yeah, in some ways, therapeutic parenting is in some ways quite traditional in regards to its boundaries and strong lines and consistency, which often modern parenting has slipped into a more casual approach.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting because I think it in some ways wouldn't offend some people in its boundary structure, but then also that blanket of love and understanding that it's, yes, the boundary's there and that's the boundary and that needs to be consistent, but why are they challenging that boundary? Or it's asking the questions about why that boundary is now becoming an issue where it wasn't 6 months ago.
Yeah, and I think it's just recognising, isn't it, that you can hold a boundary with nurture, and that's what we are trying to do.
Absolutely.
So, and we're not getting it perfect. I think that's the thing. It's a learning curve. It's absolutely a learning journey. So
absolutely. Well, I think, was that my last question? Yeah. That is all my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we finished?
Just think, to anyone listening, you will be doing a much better job than you think. And I think that we can have such high standards for ourselves as parents and carers, and we feel a lot of pressure to be getting it right. And what was one of the best things my colleague said to me was, if you could be doing therapeutic parenting about 40% of the time, that's huge, that's successful. And don't underestimate the things that you're doing to help heal your children or the people you care for. Being there for them, being present and being as consistent as you can is going to be so highly helpful. And I want to encourage people who are listening, look at what you're already doing. You will be doing such a good job under quite extraordinary circumstances. I think we become quite desensitized to the issues that we face and the challenges of parenting children who are easily overwhelmed and have gone through difficult things. And so I would say, don't let this be a thing you have to go and do, but be encouraged about what you already are doing.
Thank you. That's a lovely way to end. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Please make sure that you follow us on Instagram and turn on your notifications wherever you listen to your podcasts. Families Made Differently releases a new episode on the first Friday of each month at 9 a.m. Please comment on the podcast or slide into our DMs with your favourite bits, what inspired you, any questions you have, or if you too would like to be involved. We really appreciate your listening ears and continued support. This was Families Made Differently, the podcast designed to share stories from Christians in the UK whose lives and families have been shaped by fostering and adoption.